I want you to start thinking of your marketing campaign as essentially a consultation, whether it's doctor, whether it's skin, whether it's beauty services. Like, you have to go through that consultation process. Then the sale, the booking, the product, the service, that is your prescription. Hello and welcome back to the Beauty Industry Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Kennedy, and today we're building directly on part 3 of our marketing series where we mapped out your revenue targets and exactly how many sales of each service or product or whatever it is that you're offering you need to actually hit them. Now, in this episode, Elli and I are going to show you how to turn those targets into a clear campaign strategy, which is essentially a content plan that takes your audience on a journey and naturally guides them towards becoming a paying client. So if you've ever felt like you're posting consistently, showing up online, doing all the right things, but your launches still feel flat, unpredictable, or hit and miss, this is the missing piece. This isn't about posting more content. It is about building a structured, intentional campaign that warms your audience, builds trust, and makes booking feel like the next obvious step.
And this is the piece that changes everything. I mean, most business owners don't struggle because they lack talent or good services. They're struggling because they launch too fast or they sell before their audience is even ready. I've had clients who have done some marketing and it's either been week leading up or maybe 2, and opposed to actually strategically running a clear campaign for 6 to 8 weeks, the results just speak for themselves. What we're sharing today is the exact 8-week runway we use to create momentum before you launch. It's the warm-up phase that turns cold audiences into people who are already primed, educated, and excited by the time you make an offer.
We're going to walk you through how to map out that campaign week by week so you know exactly what to focus on, what your audience needs to see, and how to guide them from, I didn't even know that this is a problem, to, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need.
Yep. And then we'll show you how to lay out the right content inside that timeline, the topics, conversations, and questions your content needs to answer so your audience feels understood, supported, and confident enough to take action.
So if you've been wanting to make your marketing feel more strategic, more intentional, and a lot more profitable, this episode will give you the exact framework to do that. But before we get into it, let's share a quick personal update, because if you're part of this community, we always want you to know what's happening behind the scenes too. So Elli, tell us what's been going on in the last week since we last caught up.
Well, we're 10 days out from Christmas. We have a lot of Elf on the Shelf going on at my house. I honestly think December is the month of Christmas. It's not just the day. So we've been having family Christmas catch-ups, which has been really nice. And to be honest, we're heading to Sunny Coast for about a month in January. We're leaving Boxing Day, and I am just so ready to just have some quality time with my husband, my kids, and then jump into all my businesses. Most of the businesses that I work with close for about 2 to 3 weeks over Christmas. So come, end of Jan, Feb, I am really excited to start working with the businesses that I've got lined up and get everything going. Yeah. What about you? You've been at the Wild Wild West bowling, going wild.
Oh, it was insane. Like, we're getting in there at like 8, 9 a.m. and then it's just back-to-back bookings. You don't get home till about 10, 10:30, maybe 11 o'clock, just because you might close at 9, but then you've got to move all the barrels out the way. We've got like this $5,000 big vacuum mop thing that we have to go through all the floors. Then you got to clean the kitchen. Like, it's just, hospitality is such a
different hustle.
Yeah, it's a beast. It's a beast to run, and it takes you really pacing yourself. Like, I have to make sure that I'm eating and I'm drinking enough water, because otherwise you just burn out. And if you keep trying to have caffeine, it just does not work.
How many steps are you clocking in?
Oh, at least 15 to 20,000 a day.
Yeah.
Wild. When I'm working for myself, it might be like 1,000 to 3,000 if I'm not intentionally going up and walking.
Yeah. Yep.
But oh my gosh, let me tell you, like, bowling and beauty have very similar problems when it comes to customers. And I think that's why I know how to handle them so well, because I've just grown up with it every single year. You're always dealing with different people, but the exact same kind of problem. So, you know how you have people who don't show up to an appointment and someone's, frustrated that could have been booked for someone else or something. Man, you have one client do that for one appointment. We have that like completely scaled up. So we had one group who had booked 6 bowling lanes for 2 hours and we were fully booked back to back. And so we're turning away all these bookings, these walk-ins, the
Had they
phone's not
prepaid?
no. And so we take a $200 deposit for these bookings, but realistically, the value of their lanes would have been $780. So
Ooh.
we're still like 580 short. So they rock up to their booking. They're all sitting in the bar and they don't even start bowling. And then they started bowling maybe half an hour late. Then they're only using 3 lanes. And so we're sitting there going, well, we're sorry, but we've had to turn people away. There's people that are wanting to come on, so we had to invoice them for all the lanes. They ended up spending about $1,700 all up, which was great. But also it's kind of just frustrating because you've got people who are driving from Kojonup, like let's say like 2-3 hours away for a day out with their family, and then they're getting turned away because we're fully booked. And you just see someone like that and you're like, just don't overbook. The other thing is we have a couple customers now that have nicknames because you can just tell when someone's going to be a nightmare. Like it's just being able to read people. And we've got this one customer, we've got 2. So one's called the customer from hell and then the other one's called
Iconic.
I'm your friend, not your friend. And so she is like someone who will act like she's your friend, and then the second she doesn't get what she wants, she turns away and her face drops and she goes all nasty. It's just, yeah. And then she'll go back to her people and she's got the smile back on. It's like full narcissistic behavior. But it's really funny because she came in and I was like, oh, she seems all right. I've seen it in the notes. I'm your friend, not your friend. I'm like going, oh no. I'm like, this lady, she seems fine. And then as we're talking, we always keep a card on file under the till for anyone who's running a tab. I'm pretty sure that's standard bar behavior. Like if you were to go to any venue and you say tab, like you got to take something for security, right? Oh, I don't feel safe having my card under there. And I'm like, well, we don't feel safe putting $1,000 on a tab with no security. Like, what do you kind of expect? And so I was, handling her and I just said to her, well, sorry, unfortunately, that's our policies and that's how we run the tabs here. If you don't feel like you're comfortable, then you're welcome to pay, the $1,000 in full and then you can use it. And then she's like, but what if I don't use it? I want a refund. And then she's like, well, I don't want other people coming up and putting it on my tab, so I want drink tickets. And she was just trying to constantly change the rules and have everything her way. And we were all at the point where we're like, we don't need your business, you can go. Like, just because of the headache.
I have always said it from the get-go. I feel like everyone at some point in their life, and early on, like 14, do hospitality, understand people from different walks of life and be put in a position where you get the opportunity to understand. So you know how to respond to them. It's almost like tradesmen as well. My husband being a tradie, it takes them longer than ever, like most people anticipate to do a job, but they have no idea what do you mean it's going to cost this much? And what do you mean it's going to take 5 hours? Like, try to understand from the other person's perspective. It's not freaking hard.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, like some people just have no idea and they don't want to even listen to you. You're trying to present them with a solution or you're trying to explain, but they just see red and they want what they want. And, I used to work in a Thai restaurant. And
me too.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, you did tell me this. You loved all your Thai food. You're like, I was meant to be Asian. You know what? We'll go to Vietnam. We're going to live our best life. But like literally, we used to have like the private school opposite where the Thai restaurant was. And so, you'd have some wanky private school dad come in, all guns blazing. I've been waiting for my food. Where is it? And he was doing that, expecting that the food would come out faster by abusing the staff in front of everyone. And so the owner would come out and go, here's your change, leave. And, it was just like so good to see this guy's face just absolutely drop because it was like you being rude and yelling at people and being demanding is not going to get you where you want to be faster. And I think a really great thing about, bowling is that we have the Wild West brand. And so we can have a lot of, humor and sarcasm. And, one of our manager, Dan, he's so funny when people ask for stupid stuff or they're being painful. He goes, "This is the Wild West. We don't do that here." And it's just move on. But yeah, just customers, man. I think people in general, they definitely lack respect. Like even the mums coming in, they've been very demanding. And I've just said, "Do you ever say please?" And just watching their face drop, I'm like, but what example are you setting for your kids? These kids come and say, "I want this in $2 coins." I'm like, well, I want to take a break, but we can't all have what we want. Do you say please? And when you say it in front of the kids and then their parents, you can just see parents aren't being good parents anymore. And I'm not saying this is about all parents, but when you are working at a bowling alley where you're seeing huge amounts of families coming in, it's actually really sad to see. Yeah, so many kids and the parents are more glued to their phones than they are present with their kids. And that's the whole idea of bowling is to disconnect away from that. But yeah, I feel like sometimes we're just doing our little part in the community to just parent the children to just use manners and not be glued to a phone. And I guess I don't know where I was going with that. But anyways, it's just crazy to see how much times have changed. And yeah, the business is doing really well. We've got some really great customers. It's not all bad. We've had some back-to-back days where everyone's been super consistent with just getting there on time, getting their bookings off the lane. The next people come in, so you got to take the good with the bad, but it's been a busy time of the year, which is exciting. So to lead into today's episode, I thought I would paint a really clear picture for you because a lot of people don't get this when it comes to marketing. So, when you go to the doctor, you don't really just rock up to the doctor and get handed a prescription without having a conversation. The doctor will ask you some questions. They'll then listen to your symptoms. They'll do an analysis to really help understand what's actually going on. And then they explain the options to you. They answer all your concerns. And then they do recommend a treatment. Now, if a doctor skipped all of that and they said, "Here, take this, book now," you'd feel confused, rushed, and you probably wouldn't trust it because it's not even personalized to you. How do you know that this is actually going to solve your problems or support you in the way you want? So your marketing works the exact same way. Your audience needs awareness of the problem, clarity around what's happening, education on the solution, and most of all, reassurance that it's actually right for them. So I want you to start thinking of your marketing campaign as essentially a consultation, whether it's doctor, whether it's skin, whether it's beauty services. You have to go through that consultation process. Then the sale, the booking, the product, the service, that is your prescription. So what I am seeing over and over again is this idea that I'm posting content online, but it's not working. And it's usually heavily based on just photos of before and afters. Or what I'm seeing a big shift in now is people talking about what it's like running a business, but that content is more specific to if you were doing business coaching or if you were teaching other people in the industry how to run their businesses. And so when you're actually trying to focus on getting clients for a service or product, you need to make sure that the content that you're posting isn't just content willy-nilly that you're putting out. It's actually structured and it's part of a campaign. Now, if you've never heard of the word campaign or you have heard of it, but you're not really sure what that means for you, I want you to think of a campaign as the sequence of content that you're putting out in order. So you're not just, content. I'm going to just post about my weekend, then I'm going to post this with no structure. The campaign is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So you're taking that person on a journey. Now, Ellie, I love the episode that we did on your annual marketing calendar because that had such a positive response. We got heaps of DMs on beauty industry leaders just saying, wow, I've never understood marketing or thought of it in that way. And when I've been watching your journey, not only becoming the business owner you are today, but also all of the clinics that you've been working with, I've seen you achieve some pretty impressive results from literally a 20% increase in one salon to tripling revenue in another one. And you've followed this same system and process. And it's almost so simple, it sounds stupid that so many people overlook it. So I wanted to ask you, what is that 8-week process? Like, what is the missing piece that everyone needs to get their hands on if they want to succeed in 2026?
All right. Well, it is easy, girls. It is. But most business owners, they launch too quickly. They post a few before and afters, and then they just end up announcing an offer, and they honestly just hope it converts. But we know that conversion doesn't come from launching. Conversion comes from the build up. So the 8-week runway is what gives your audience the time to actually understand the problem. They recognize the solution. They're finding trust in you, and they feel confident enough to book. So now that you know how many clients you actually need from our last podcast, and you know how much revenue your goal is, the next step is creating a campaign that builds demand for those services. And this is where the 8-week launch process comes in. This is the framework that warms your audience, builds the trust, and it gets traction before you launch anything. So when you follow this sequence, you're guiding your audience from cold to curious to warm to I am ready and I need exactly what you're about to tell me I need. Okay, so here's exactly how it works. 8 weeks out, we highlight the core problem your promo or service solves. We start raising awareness and we start helping people recognize it themselves. So one of the things that I talk about in the consultation process is it's all well and good to ask somebody, oh, what are your concerns, or what's this or what's that? But if you actually said, hey, we've got pigmentation, we've got redness, we've got vascular, all of those types of things, they're going to be more inclined to be like, oh, yeah, I have that. So step 8 weeks out, highlight the problem that your promo or service solves.
I literally can relate to this so much because there was an ad the other day and it was like, if you have bloating, if you have period pain, if you have this, if you have that, then this is what you've got. And I was just like, tick, 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 that is me. I probably have a parasite. Let's go and figure out what I need to take now to do that. And then, I'm slightly aware of it, but it's not at the forefront of my mind. And until I saw that ad and it just literally listed out, are you experiencing this, 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 and this? Then you probably got this. It just made it so clear to me. So I really love that problem awareness piece.
Yeah. And then when you've got that awareness, you're already brought in straight away, straight off the bat. You want to keep knowing what they've got. So 7 weeks out, show how that problem is impacting your clients' lives. Make it relatable, make it emotional, and make it real. So let's just say it is pigmentation that they may have a problem with. Okay, well, how does that problem impact them with pigmentation? It might be every time I apply my makeup, it always looks dirty. Showcase that. Talk about that. 6 weeks out, highlight what services help. You're not selling it yet. You're educating them. So if you've got someone who's got pigmentation, you find that, when you apply your makeup, it doesn't look the way you want it to look. This is what we actually do. 5 weeks out, showcase the products that support the transformation. This positions you as holistic, not one and done. Now, I think this step is the one that I get questioned the most. So why do I need to throw my products in it? Or what's that really matter? As a beauty therapist, hand in hand, products and services come together. And it's a really important part of your client's journey and the success that they're going to get. Why would you forget about doing this? So they come to the consultation all of a sudden, hey, you guys now need 5 products. Make this a part of that marketing journey. 4 weeks out, this is the golden one. Share your before and afters. Do the storytelling. This is where people start to visualize themselves in the results. And this is probably the most powerful because in our industry, it is very visual. People want to see what they're possibly going to have, results that they're going to actually have. 3 weeks out, bring in client testimonials. So this is obviously going to build the trust and reduce hesitation. And the more testimonials that you've actually got, the better it is. So one other thing that my clients will ask me will be like, oh, well, what kind of testimonial should I be putting out there? You've obviously got, if you can get video testimonials, if you can get, your Google reviews, they're great. Video ones are so powerful these days because you can't lie when it comes to people's emotions and how excited they get when they've actually had a transformation. And we know how powerful it is when we're watching someone else experience something and how emotional they can get when they've had those results, that is the biggest buy-in. 2 weeks out is the final teaser and the countdown. So create momentum, anticipation, and excitement. And then 1 week out is launch week. Reveal the offer, explain the details, tell them who it's for, what's included, and how to book. And the hot tip that I want to give you guys is it's all well and good for you to be doing your 8-week marketing program on social media, but make sure that you are also going through this campaign with your team. Now, if you have got an 8-week build up going on social media, they could be doing the exact same thing with the clients in the clinic 8 weeks out. That could be for that week. If you have any downtime in between your clients and you know that you could potentially take this client down the same pathway of the promotion that's about to come out, say to them, hey, do you mind if we review your skin? Do the same process, but in person, highlight their actual problems to them, showcase how you might be able to help them and bring them along that journey, but in it from a personal perspective. And the other thing to do is your post-launch. Thank your clients. Share the wins. Show the results. Introduce follow-up offers. This extends the life of your campaign and it picks up all the people who were watching the entire time. The 8-week runway is your warm-up phase. It's the momentum builder. It's what makes your launch actually convert.
And once you've mapped out that 8-week launch process, this is where you get really intentional about the content that you're posting inside that timeline. Because these are the core topics and questions your content needs to hit if you want your audience to really take that understanding of here's my problem and here's the solution. This is what I'm actually looking for. So to add on to everything that Elli's saying, what you'll start to realize is that if you're trying to promote 10 different offers at the same time, like let's say you are a one-stop shop. Let's say you offer all skin services and then one day you're trying to promote skin needling, the next you're trying to do a peel, next you're doing laser genesis, next you're doing this. If you're constantly talking about all these different services, it's going to put people into a state of overwhelm. And so what we want to be really clear on is that when you're following this 8-week process, that we are consistently talking to the same ideal client who is actually going to be the right person for this service or product. And the reason why you want to do that, a great example is if you've ever looked on Instagram or TikTok and you've seen something come up in your For You page and it really engages you and you like their content, you go onto their profile. And if you're interested, you start doom scrolling, right? Now, if they started talking about 20 different things that were not even related to each other. So like, here's my daily recipe that I like to meal prep. Here's my gym workout. Here's how I paint my toenails. Here's me going skydiving on a Friday. Here's me running my business in another country. Here's me choosing out what outfit I'm going to wear today. Like if it wasn't following a consistent theme, you would probably feel a little bit like, well, why would I follow you? And people like consistency because it builds trust. So when you're doing this launch phase, make sure you choose one product or one service or one offer. So you've got one thing that you're selling, one ideal client, and then follow this process through from start to finish, because that consistency and taking people on that journey, it will help convert. Now, I know there's probably some other things that you're thinking like, well, how many times can I post this and people will see it and they'll be bored of it, especially if, let's say, you're only offering one type of service in your business. You could relaunch it and pretty much just change out a few words and make sure that you're keeping it consistent, because the reality is only 3 to 10% of your people are actually going to see this in your audience. So being able to repurpose content is great. Another great tip is also being able to look at different ideal clients. So, for example, let's say you've got acne. Acne could be specifically focused towards someone who's had a baby and they're having those post-hormonal breakouts. You could have someone who is in their teenage years to early 20s and they're having those kind of breakouts. Like still that whole process, the messaging, the ideal client in mind, they're two different people. And so they could be two really successful campaigns just by tweaking the way you're writing, who you're focusing it on. So when we talk about the problems, the solutions, the objections, it's really important to have that ideal client in mind, which is what we covered in episode 2, because people don't buy the same way anymore. Someone whose younger TikTok brain is going to buy very differently than someone who still reads the newspaper and refuses to go on social media. Different buying behaviors, different priorities, different levels of skepticism too. So when we're talking into build on what Elli's spoken about with problem awareness, the things that we really see work well with our clients is diving deep into those fears, frustrations, daily annoyances, and the internal thoughts that they never say out loud. So when you're talking about problem, especially in beauty, you're not just talking about, I've got red dots on my face, or I can't go to the event this weekend. Like, it's actually getting really clear on what does that exact situation look like. When I was doing eyelash extensions, I actually remember I said, when you just want to rub your eyes and then you look like a panda because of all the mascara smudges, like that was such a specific, relatable thing that my ideal client could associate with. So when we're talking about problem, another thing that I think is really important to bring up, and skin is notorious for doing this because you are more elevated in the way you speak in terms of using specific terminology that is correct. Have you ever been to the doctor and or a dentist and you're trying to explain what's wrong and they just start talking a different language and you're like, what is this palate canine? What the bit, you just kind of tune out. Your audience will also tune out if you start using that language. So look through your consultation forms and see how are they describing the problem. I used to have like this congestion on my forehead. I didn't know that was the word you used to describe it. I used to put white little bumps. That's how I describe the problem. And so when you've got all these people in their marketing trying to get new clients in and they're talking alien language, it does actually repel them. So Elli, what are some common things that you might see where skin therapists in particular are talking about something or explaining, but the ideal client is just completely tuned out because they can't actually understand what it is that they're saying?
Most of the skin conditions, honestly, they don't know the correct terminology for. And I think that's why if you're talking about it on social media or even in person, it's really important that you do this hand in hand with visuals, because they're going to be able to, it's good for them. It's good for us to educate them on the correct terminology so that they are aware, but hand in hand with visuals. But it really is just the common, even skin concerns like rosacea. For instance, they don't know what rosacea is, or pigmentation. They'll just say freckles, and then the different kinds of pigmentation. So it's quite a fair bit.
And you could literally just start with like, if you've started noticing more freckles pop on your face, they're actually not freckles. This is what it is. Or it's like, if you've got a lot of redness, the condition for this is called rosacea. Like, love that education piece, because if you start just talking about rosacea and they don't know what that is, they're going to it'll go straight over their head. And what we want to do is make them confident enough to be able to associate that this is actually relevant to me, or this is what I'm going through. I feel heard. I feel seen. Oh, there actually is a potential solution for this. Like, I just go back to that situation where I was struggling with acne, but it wasn't like full-blown cystic breakouts. It was just all these little white bumps on my forehead. And then I was just getting, I didn't know it was called perioral dermatitis. I was just getting this like red stuff around my face. And see how I'm describing that? That's what someone who isn't in skin is going to describe their problem as. So when I started seeing all these posts about, perioral dermatitis and all these other things, it went straight over my head. But it wasn't until I started hearing one person's content specifically speaking about like, are you using this toothpaste? Are you doing this thing? Are you doing that? Here's why it may be not working for you. And I was like, whoa, okay, so this has been the problem the whole time. And that conversion into the next part, like the solution side of things, this is where you're not necessarily trying to talk about all the features of your product. You're trying to talk about what their life is going to look like after they've had the service. So this is appealing to their hopes, their dreams, their desires, how they want to feel. And I have found that if you just focus on physical, it's not enough. But being able to hit points across physical, emotional, lifestyle, that is where the money is made. Because I love what you said before about, beauty is visual and people want that transformation. However, to add on to that, I also believe that in today's world, it's very much a feeling too. You see the visual and you feel something. You go to that appointment and you feel something. So it's not just looking good anymore. It's actually intentionally creating an experience that makes someone feel good. So being able to give them their confidence back, being able to let them go outside happy wearing that no makeup and just feeling confident being them. Like that's kind of what we're leaning into. And if you can present those in your solutions, all of a sudden you're going to have a lot more people listening. Okay, you've got me. This is what I want. So we've taken them from A to B. Now the next step is that offer introduction where we're actually explaining to them, how does this all work? Like, what is this service? How does it work? Why is it different from other things that they've tried before? Because I'm sure, like many, they've probably gone to other people. They've gone and spent more money on products. Like it's literally like dating, guys. People out there are traumatized. They've been through a few bad ones and now they think everyone's bad. And so we've got to spend time untraumatizing them. But like being able to give them the information and showcase like, how are you valuable? How do you help them? I was actually just working with a one-on-one client the other day and she sent me through her information guide and it was all about her. Like it's like, this is my name. Here's what I do. I have this many years experience and all that stuff. And I'm like, she's done a great, incredible job in the industry. Do not get me wrong. But I had to explain to her, when you say I, everyone tunes out. But it's like, here's how I help you. You will this. You're going to feel this. You're going to learn this. Here's what life's going to look like for you. All of a sudden, more people are going to start listening. And so when you're talking about your offer, don't just list out this frequency and this potion and this pill and this thing, you know what I mean? It's like you actually want to talk about, okay, what is skin needling? So skin needling, break it down in language that they can understand. Use analogies. How does it work? Don't go all crazy skin science girl on them. Just explain to them in a simple way, like, how does it work? What is the process? What can they expect? They don't need to know everything on a cellular level because that's what the treatment room is for. Now, I do believe that there is a great opportunity for you to put this educational content out with all the specific terms, but if you are in a lead generation phase, it's not necessarily going to help. It's more from an authority building lens. I would put that in that content pillar, but for a lead generation perspective, we want to look at focusing everything intentionally towards how our ideal client is feeling, what information is going to resonate with them the most because they're the person buying from you, not the skin therapist down the road. Now, why is it different? Well, Ellie, what's one product or service that you've had a bad experience with and then you've been scarred and scared to go buy something new or try again?
Oh, why is this so hard to answer? Actually, it would be skin needling. The first time I had skin needling done, I was numbed, and I think I ended up having like the numbing was toxic or something like that, and I was getting sleepy. So it made me really, like we had to call the doctor and stuff like that, and it made me really nervous about getting needling done again because obviously you need to be numb to an extent. But I think then, I mean, I'm talking this was over 10 years ago.
Who's getting numbed? I didn't get numbed and it was so painful.
You're tough, girlfriend. But that really put a bad taste in my mouth, and then I just didn't want to get needling done again because I was nervous of the whole numbing side of things and how I was going to feel. But I have been needled since and I've had amazing results from it.
So if you go back to that bad experience, that would have created some objections for you going and getting it again. So before you went to the next place, what kind of concerns or questions or barriers did you have that were kind of making you go, oh, I'm not sure if I want to book in for this?
It was the process in which they performed the needling. So how long did they put the numbing cream on for? What was the numbing cream that they were using? Was it necessary for the numbing? Could we do a test patch prior to it to make sure that I wasn't going to have any reactions to the numbing? Things like that. And then it was even having conversations around what other services could meet the same requirements or the same
what
results.
about other options?
Yeah.
Because most people are going to be scared of wasting money, choosing the wrong treatment, or not getting results. And so a really great hack is to go through Reddit and look at everyone's complaints, or even in Facebook groups. There's some great Facebook groups out there where you can just honestly find so much information about people who haven't had a good experience with a particular service, and then read all the comments about what people have experienced, because that's where you can actually address those objections and create solutions or educate your audience. And this is where you can get into the technical side if you want to really hone in how you're going to create a positive experience for them. So looking at those objections, Ellie, if you saw someone's content and they're like talking about the numbing cream, how long is it necessary, what it does, how our process is different from maybe other people who have provided experiences, do you feel like that would have given you the reassurance to know if you were making the right decision moving forward?
Well, I would have, if I had seen that on socials, that would have ticked all the all the concerns that I had, so that when I went in for my actual consultation process, I was already at a high confidence. I had more confidence within the therapist and the business that I was, going to see.
Yes. And objection busting is one of those things that it takes the nightmare out of you having to over explain during that consultation process. Because I don't know about you, I've had a few different clients, especially across skin, because consultation is very important for being able to select the right treatment and create that journey and client experience. But I swear some clinics have like 45-minute hour consultations, and then I've got others that are like 15 to 20 minutes. And so I have a very strong feeling that people are either overcompensating or over explaining because they're scared the client is going to stay on long term. So then they just start like overloading them with information, or they get those clients who have a lot of objections and they're trying to ask every single question and put that therapist under pressure. And if the content is pre-handling the objections, then that means less time of you explaining these kind of things in your consultation because they're already aware or understanding. Or you can go over them, but you don't have to spend like a good 15 minutes just trying to get them convinced that this is the right thing for them.
And the other really powerful tool you can use, just running back to jumping it, but client testimonials. When you setting a client up to do a video testimonial, let's just say, be strategic with the questions you're asking. Were you hesitant prior to having this service performed? And let them answer for you, because more than likelihood, the things that they're going to say as a client is exactly what your other client is going to be able to associate with.
Oh, love it. And also to lead into the next thing, client transformations, like you already said this before, video testimonials. I have been huge on video testimonials. Like they have been the one thing that has really skyrocketed my business across multiple different avenues, whether it was beauty, whether it was coaching, because like you're saying, Ellie, the client transformation, you can see in someone's face how excited they are, or yeah, like it was all right. You can actually feel that through the video, and people buy with emotion and they justify with logic. Now, the client transformation, most people, I keep saying this over and over again, they focus on before and after too much, but there's so many different creative ways that you can show a transformation. So you can do a video testimonial. That's the client showing the transformation in their words about the experience. You could have user-generated content of them creating a journey. So when I used to have influencers, I would get them to come in once a month, and then I would get them to create like a little, 30-second video. And then I would grab all that content and I would actually show step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5 across a 5-month period. Now, skin, this is what I would be wanting to do. And you could do this with your staff members. You don't have to go get an influencer. You could do it with someone who is that client who isn't camera shy. You can block out their eyes and create that privacy if you want to, and they're not feeling comfortable, and just do it with photos. But don't just always show A and B, show the messy middle, because that's where the trust is actually created. A great way to do it is you voiceovering or doing a green screen over a photo and highlight these are the issues that we started with. These are the treatments we used. Show that behind the scenes. Basically turn your content into a reality TV show. People want to know everything that's going on.
The other really good one is, I'm going to jump in there, is use your Observe. The Observe that we've got in clinic now, that showcases I think up to 6 different images, like your underlying pigmentation, redness, vascular, aging. Utilize that. And if the other thing is, if you don't have that ideal client, like say you haven't had a vascular client, you can perform it, you've done it over the years, but you don't have a really good client to actually showcase, utilize the company's photos as well. This is what we're able to achieve. I don't think that's a bad idea. Use credibility in the machine that you have via a different manner. And the other one that I'm thinking off the top of my head as well is just voice notes. Like I'm a massive voice note girl. Like when I like send you a message or anyone, like I'll voice note it again, going back to emphasizing how grateful I am or thankful I am, or, you know, if they don't want to get in front of the camera, use their voice. No one else has their voice.
Yeah. And if they're okay with it, you could literally screen record that, have that as your voiceover, insert that, and then just have some videos of behind the scenes. Like B-roll content is great. Like people, when I talk about the pin posts, I'm like, you need to have one pin post, which is essentially the experience of being a client. So they know what they're in for, like walking in through the doors. What does the reception look like? How are the staff showing up? Are they friendly? What does the room look like? I want to see someone getting treatment. That's how I want to feel. You know, it's about creating the visual experience that invokes the emotion. And so client transformations, they shouldn't just be a before and after side by side. It should be a visual experience, because that will sell so much more than, like, it's like what we keep saying, you know, unfortunately, as much as you may love it or hate it, content and marketing is ever evolving. And this is what's working in today's world. Now, we might put out another episode in 6 months' time and the content strategy is completely changed. And yes, I get it. It's frustrating. You should just be able to put up a story and get clients, and it's not the same anymore. And so this is where I think having that time carved out in your week, or having someone dedicated in your team or a VA to support you in content, is going to help you grow the business. But I do believe moving forward, the business owners who don't have that marketing support, and I'm not saying you have to go hire an agency, but just like literally having time in your week where you're intentionally focusing on your marketing, like your business will fall behind. And a great app to go follow, or I would say account on Instagram, is Kinzo. Now, Kinzo, they are an AI app which brings all your social media platforms and messaging apps, and AI can handle it. And the founders, I think they're two brothers, Frankie and Jacques or something, they scaled to 100 million, sold a company, and they're rebuilding. But their number one thing that they have said is most important to success of a business isn't just getting investors and money. It's actually building audience. Now, all of this marketing stuff that Ellie and I are talking about isn't going to work if you don't have an audience. And I used to be very anti-influencer because I came from that world. I knew how much it took to build an audience, and it was just exhausting. It didn't feel aligned. But now I don't necessarily think you have to be an influencer, but you have to be a founder. And as a founder, you've got to show what it's like, how you think, the experience, the brand, everything behind the scenes. It's not just pretty visuals anymore. So if we're looking like 2026 and beyond, if I could give any piece of advice to you, it would be get intentional with your marketing, because this is the one thing that, especially in beauty, it's driven by marketing. It's not just being a good service provider anymore. You can hire a good service provider. You need to be the face of the brand and the marketer from now on. Like, I know there's some people out here that are just going to be rolling their eyes, but trust me, like, the second you start stepping into your power and being the business owner and like showcasing why you're building this, how it's different, like that is what's going to help. And this leads us into our next thing, the behind the scenes. Like, so many people love the behind the scenes. Like, so one thing in Book Bagged Into Demand, and Ellie, you would have done this too, because I know you did you do a movie trailer. I tell everyone, create a movie trailer, but not just of your business, of who you are as a person, why you started your business, and who you're here to help. Every single client that I've had do this is their most engaged post. What happened, Ellie, for you when you started showcasing more behind the scenes in your business?
I'm pretty private still, I must admit. I really am pretty private, but I think it allows people to feel like we're all just normal, and people love to see that we're human and that we make mistakes. Like, even when we're recording, you know, it's like, oh, stop, hang on, we've got baby, you know, this is happening. Or, you know, I stumbled upon my words. Like, we're all human. One of my clients, she recently posted her doing a reel, but the behind the scenes, like, oh no, wait, you say that and then I'll say this. And then she's getting embarrassed and then she's laughing and then she's like, oh my gosh, okay, take two again. People love it. Absolutely love it, because you're human. and you're no different to
Man,
anyone else.
before I had you on the podcast, I remember there was one specific time where I couldn't get past the first sentence and I just wouldn't keep going. I just kept pressing stop and then I'd re-record 146 takes, and 5 hours later I finally finished the episode and I was just like, I'm never doing that again. You know, like there was that level of perfection and that pressure, and beauty industry leaders, and it needs to be at this leadership level where you're setting the standard. And I think that's where we all get caught out, because we do want to show up as professional and polished and making sure that we are putting intention behind, because there is going to be a level of perfectionism when you're trying to build something incredible. But then there's also that nice moment when you realize, oh, I can show behind the scenes, and behind the scenes doesn't have to be perfect, but it just needs to be real, because people are going to relate to the real side more than they are perfect. Because I think deep down, every single person is going to look at someone who appears to be perfect and they're almost like intentionally looking for a flaw. They're like, something's got to fall. I'm waiting for it. And they're waiting for your downfall. So I think vulnerability in founders, showing behind the scenes, like, we do it at bowling. I reckon if we were in corporate, we would definitely be in HR trouble for sure. But, you know, some of our younger staff, like there's this kid called LP, Lil Pup. He kind of looks like my dad's son more than Mike and I do. He's a little redhead. He's so cute. He will burn a pizza to ash. And so dad's putting up a video on Facebook going, LP, what have you done here, mate? And the video's going viral. And then we've got customers coming in and going up to LP at the customer counter and going, I hope you're not going to burn my pizza. But it's become a humor thing. And so each person in the bowling alley is a character. And we are essentially the Kardashians of Albany, you know, because we have this whole movie set where we're constantly filming content, we're showing the behind the scenes, people are engaged.
Okay, Kim, calm down. Calm down, Kim.
No, I reckon I'd be Scott. I would be just like brutal to everyone.
I love that.
I don't know. I don't really know the Kardashians that well, but at one stage I did watch them and I was just like, I reckon Scott is my spirit animal. He's just so like, I just love him. He's just so honest. Whereas, yeah. Anyway, so behind the scenes, you've got to showcase behind the scenes, because that's what builds connection. That's what builds community too.
And that is exactly what gets you your ideal client, because they are going to be your person and they're going to love who you are naturally, you know, whether that be the professional you on the screen or that be the person behind the scenes. I feel like the more vulnerable I am to my clients, and I am very vulnerable in person, the more they feel like they can open up and like, oh, I can grow with you because there's no judgment there. There's no fear. You're just as equal as I am. You've just got more knowledge ready to give me.
Oh my gosh, literally. Like when we started sharing our personal updates on the podcast, I was like, well, if people don't like it, they can skip it. Like seriously, it doesn't matter that much. But the amount of times I've had people messaging me about bowling alley, or they're like, I love travel too. It just creates you into more of a human than a business. Because if you look at the business brand, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, like whatever it is, well, not Twitter, it's X now. I really need to make sure my brain's, it's still catching up. But like we look at those platforms and they don't have personality. But we look at Elon Musk, we look at Mark Zuckerberg, we look at Adam Masuri. Like those are the people that you're like, oh, I can connect with them because they're a human. And so I think old school beauty marketing has really taken a massive hit, because back then it actually used to be a lot of sales, promos, really picture perfect skin on some 20-year-old looking AI model back in the day, and you're trying to sell anti-aging products to someone who's 40 plus. And so the consumer has changed, and what we believe, and this is why I think Gen Z are probably the smartest marketers that we've ever met, because they're about creating an experience through marketing, but in a different way. It's very visual, it's audio, it's video, because that's the platform that they grew up with. Whereas now, like if I'm looking at my older clients who are in their 50s and 60s, their marketing mindset is very different. They're like, well, this promo sheet worked 20 years ago, so we're going to keep using this one over and over again, but you got to adapt. Now, moving into the next section, we've got frequently asked questions. And sometimes this might be a little bit of a crossover with some of your objections, because, you know, they might have those objections, they have questions, but frequently asked questions. If you can cover these, this will remove the friction and make booking feel easy. So there's going to be some questions like, how many treatments, how many appointments, how many sessions is it going to take for me to start seeing a result? Or how much time is this going to take? Is there a healing process? Is there downtime? What's the maintenance required? Does it have long-lasting effects? There's all these little questions that people are going to have in the back of their mind that you may often overlook because you're doing every single day and the obvious answer is just right there for you. You understand it. But great question is ask someone who isn't in the industry about it and what questions that they would have. I always love asking Nick or like my dad, like ask a male, someone who has nothing to do, can you understand this? What questions do you have? Because if they can understand it, then anyone can understand it. Because, that's kind of like your litmus test. You got to make sure that people understand what it is that you're selling. Ellie, what are some of the common questions that you would want to be answering in FAQs to ensure that the client booking in is ready and prepared?
Okay, so I suppose some of the frequently asked questions that I would be looking at would be, what is the treatment? Who is it for? How many do I need? Contraindications. Now, this might be a big word. It might not make sense to people, but utilize this as an opportunity to showcase the certain things in your life that you can't be doing whilst you're getting the treatment done, or that you have medications, antibiotics, antihistamines, ibuprofen, all of those types of things are contraindications to specific treatments.
And explain why too, so that they actually understand. Just don't go, oh yeah, you can't have this treatment if this. Like, here's why. Because people are always going to want to know why. And if they don't understand why, they'll just keep doing it.
And like laser hair removal is such a big one, fake tan. Obviously laser is attracted to pigment. Fake tan is a form of pigment on the surface of the skin. I was that strict with fake tan when it came to laser hair removal because you will burn their skin. And the amount of girls that were like, nah, I've got nothing on. And you can clearly see on their bikini line they've got it. Nah, I've got nothing on. I would be like, okay, well, I'm just going to use an alcohol wipe. And if anything shows up on the alcohol wipe, then we can't perform this. Like, I don't want you coming away with 3-degree burns. Like, I don't want to do that to you. And they just kind of look at you like, oh. And you're like, no. Like, this is what can occur. And the other frequently asked question I would be, what is the aftercare that they may require or have to take on when they're having that service done? Because like laser hair removal, you need to have a laser aid post the service to be able to take the heat out of the surface of the skin. Really important. That way they know what they're going in for and they know what they're coming out with.
Yes. And that whole treatment maintenance, like what is expected, that's a huge thing. Like I have been going to Love Beauty to go get back knee treatments and I've had like really severe back knee. It's been terrible. Every time I go to the Asian countries, it flares up. And the problem is I'm traveling so much and I'm away that I can't do consistent treatments. And so they're trying to get me back in and I've had to explain like, because I understand that I need to be coming back every 4 to 6 weeks, like this is the best I can do. Then they gave me the aftercare, which I can follow because I can't have all the treatments and like slightly switch it up. But that was a big one for me, investing in any skin. If I'm traveling all the time, I've actually got to make sure that I, the client, can show up and do my part. Otherwise, we're never going to get results. I'm going to feel like I'm wasting money. The therapist is going to feel shit because they're having extra pressure added to get a result, but they know that I'm not following the aftercare because I'm not there or getting the treatments regularly enough. So that's a huge one. Asking about the lifestyle too. What are you committing to? How can you make it work in with your lifestyle? It's not a one and done. A lot of these beauty treatments, there are the instant result ones, but then they do require a maintenance. So your lashes, your nails, your brows, your waxing, whatever it is. The skin ones, that's so much more of a journey and that's a bigger investment. And something that I've found is lead generation for quick fix services, like one and done, you can see an instant result. They usually are easier to convert. People who are selling things like skin and cosmetic tattooing, it is so important that you go through this 8-week journey and actually pre-framing, educating, helping your clients understand why. Because there's a higher level of trust, because it's a higher investment and it takes longer to get a result. So it's just like if you wanted to go, it's not the exact same thing, but if you want to go buy a push-up bra, you just walk into bras and things, get your push-up bra and you're like, that's fine. I'm happy to spend $50, whatever it is. But if you wanted to go get fake boobs, you'll be researching, you will be looking in Australia, locally, other cities, maybe in Thailand. I don't know, whatever the process is, but you would really be doing your research before you made that bigger investment. So one thing that I do want to reassure you about is if you are in an industry where you're selling a higher ticket service, it is easy to compare to those lower ticket people who are just selling out like there's no tomorrow. But that's because they're selling an easier transformation that is instant. And that services that quick fix, instant gratification mindset type of client. But if you are looking for those quality clients, they will take longer to convert because they know how to ask the right questions. They know how to do their market research. So when you start thinking about your marketing as this 8-week period and the next 8-week period actually setting up the clients that are coming in maybe 6 to 12 months from now, you stop getting so reactive and down and out on yourself going, oh, it's not working, or I'm not good enough, or, oh, I'm just not sure that, marketing even works anymore. Like those are all the questions I get. But the compounding effect of this podcast is that people who have been listening for let's say the whole 18 months since I started, I didn't make any money. I didn't do anything. I was pouring in over $2,000 a month into the podcast. And now I'm at the stage where I get new clients every month because of it. But it's that compound interest of the marketing, of providing value, of talking about problems, giving solutions, showing what's different, that has now started to work. And I don't think the podcast will really take off until 5 years in. Look at any podcast that's done well. So podcasting, if I can give you some insight, it's actually taught me about being patient, really being patient with your marketing, showing up consistently. It feels like you're not going anywhere, but then one day you wake up and you're like, fuck, we've already hit 17,000 downloads, Ellie. It's just with your audience too. When you first start out, you're going to have 0 followers. And then, 2 years in, you might only have 500 or 2,000, but then 10 years, you're like, whoa, we got 20 or 50 or 100. And it's like that consistency is what builds. So with these strategies, you can't just look at your marketing as a one and done, or I put one post up and I get 50 clients. It's not going to be that. And I wish that, this message was more well received, because on social media, you are sold a lie. You are sold by so many gurus and experts that you just put one piece of content up or follow this one strategy and you make $1 million. But it's actually so many factors, like your audience size, your consistency, your trust, your personality, your branding. And so start today, start trialing and testing, and then figure out where can we improve, what can we do better. But don't give up, just because one post or one cycle of going through this hasn't worked. Have you got anything to add with that, Ellie? I can see you nodding. You're like, yes.
Yeah, Sammy, you know what? I think that people forget that in our industry or across everything, people have been doing it for years and years and years and years. And sometimes they only notice it once you've actually become something. And they forget that you might have been in that business for 7 years and you did start off posting things to only 300 people. And then all of a sudden it was this and all of a sudden it was that. So give yourself grace.
That was while we're following. We literally, my tagline for our awards and everything is it took us 18 years to become an overnight success. 18 years, 8 businesses, pretty much the second business got us into $500,000 debt. We then had 6 rodeos. The first rodeo lost us $80K. The second rodeo lost us $60K. But then we finally recovered and we were able to turn over $70 to $80K profit a year. Now, the reason why I share that is because I would hate for someone to look and go, how is she 23 and she knows all these things? Or how has she done this and what's she doing? I don't want you to compare, because I came from a completely different world than you. I came through struggle. I came through hardship and lessons. Most people that would experience that are actually my parents' age. Do you know what I mean? My mum and dad going through that would be the relatable thing for the business owner that's gone and done that. But I grew up with that. And so the whole journey of seeing how people wow, it's all come together, but then actually living through it, I'm like, you have no idea. And all of us as business owners, we have our own challenges and our own struggles. And we're always comparing to what we see as the final product, but not necessarily the journey. And something that I actually found peace with this year was I was like, maybe I need to do a big retreat. Maybe I'll do a big event. Like I had these big visions, but then there's almost a part of me that's kind of pulled back and gone, I actually have a better quality of life doing what I'm doing now than if I were to just fork out and start doing big, crazy things like we did with the beauty pageant, getting, 130K to put an event on. It's a huge amount of money, risk, sponsorships. I'm like, do I think all the flashy things that are going to look good on social media and impress other people actually going to make me happy or give me the lifestyle freedom and flexibility and fulfillment that I actually crave? Not really. And so sometimes, and this comes back to like getting really clear on why you started your business and what you actually want out of it, it can be a big perspective shift of like getting caught up with what everyone else is doing and then coming back to you and going like, what do I actually want? But yeah, I really think all of this is great. Like the last thing that you may want to cover in your content, and this is the last thing, not the first thing, is the direct offer and the call to action to actually buy. So carousels, reels, you can do like a physical green screen of like, here's how you book an appointment. You could do, here's what to expect when you come into an appointment. Like here's how you actually make that booking, what that process looks like, what the treatment, the follow, the aftercare, like give them that teaser of the experience so that they know what they're in for. So everything that I've started to figure out with marketing is essentially take that step back and look at it as a client journey. Map out your client journey, know every single touch point, and then make your marketing align with that. Because if people don't understand what it is that you're selling, they'll never buy from you. And so everything is about creating a journey. Marketing, the client experience, the way you greet people, the way you treat them, the way you nurture them. This podcast is a client journey. Every time we structure an episode, there's a specific way we do it. We speak about the challenges and the problems so that you understand how it shows up in your daily life. Here's what can happen when you implement, and then we show you the strategy. There's a reason why we do that. Because if we just gave you all the solutions and the strategy, you'd be like, well, that doesn't really apply to me. Why do I need to do this now? So the more time you spend in planning and actually curating that whole process, the better results you will get. When we put all of this together, knowing your numbers, breaking down exactly how many clients you need, choosing the right service to focus on, and then mapping out your 8-week runway, you suddenly realize that marketing doesn't have to feel overwhelming or random. It actually becomes incredibly strategic, simple, and predictable.
Exactly. This is where you shift out of hoping and into leading. When you follow this process, you're not just posting for the sake of it. You're guiding your audience through a journey that builds trust, builds desire, and makes your offer the logical next step. And that's when you start seeing consistent inquiries, predictable bookings, and real momentum in your business.
And the best part is you can rinse and repeat this framework every single time you launch something, every single time that you want to specifically promote a service or product. It's the same psychology, the same formula. Algorithms will change, platforms may change, but the actual understanding of how someone comes to purchase something, this is proven psychology. It's not going to change every 2 weeks on you. So whether it's a new treatment, a seasonal promo, a package, or even just looking to boost a slow month, this campaign strategy will give you the structure and confidence. Stop guessing, stop wasting time, and start finally marketing like a CEO.
If today's episode lit a fire under you and you want to dive deeper into creating campaigns that convert, come join us at the Beauty Industry Leaders Business Retreat. We've got the tools, the templates, the trainings, and support to help you implement the entire process step by step.
Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you love this episode, please make sure you subscribe, share it with another beauty business owner, or leave a review. It helps us reach more people who need this kind of support. We can't wait to see the strategic, high-converting campaigns you'll be creating after this. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Audience exclusive.